right, welcome back. We have an extra item to consider. CAO Parker.
Yes, we have an extra item. Matthew will be coming forward to share why it should be considered. It's in relation to Congressman Thompson's ask for the earmarks that we previously brought before this board. There is a minor adjustment that we'd like to make the board aware of and to sign off on.
Okay, so first the rationale.
Matthew?
Yes, good afternoon, board members. So first the rationale. On Monday evening, March 27, which was yesterday, the county was notified by the city of Clear Lake of a request for additional items to support a modified request that was derived from our broader community project funding request supported by your board, which was Resolution 2023-30 on March 14, 2023, and submitted thereafter by the city of Clear Lake. So Congressman Thompson's staff indicated that pools and aquatic centers are precluded from community project funding this cycle, and therefore the proposal must be amended to include funding of the capital costs related to the Regional Recreational Center at Burns Valley only. And we've been advised that additional materials must be submitted no later than Thursday, March 30, so that is prior to your board's next meeting.
Okay. Comments? Supervisor Spatier?
I was going to make a motion to approve the item.
Well, let's do
Sorry, jumping.
public input. Oh, I need to join. Okay, I don't see any, so we'll bring the item back.
Madam Chair, I move to.
Go ahead.
Well, it appears that there's going to be a motion to approve taking up this item as an extra item.
Yes.
Yes. I move to approve this extra item as it came to our attention after the posting of this current agenda and needs action prior to the next posting of the regular meeting on Tuesday, April 4th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, well, let's just take the item up now, 4.1.
Thank you, board.
Excuse me, Johanna, could you display both the resolution and the staff memo behind Matthew?
It has to be one at a time.
Okay, first the memo, then the reso.
Thank you.
So you'll recall on Tuesday, the 14th, your board approved submittal of 4 proposals for consideration of fiscal year 2024 community project funding. And those were the Lakeport Regional Navigation Center, which was a joint Lakeport and county submittal, the Recreation Center in Clear Lake, and Aquatic Community Swim Center in Lakeport, which was a joint proposal that had a countywide scope, Big Valley Fish Habitat Improvement and Groundwater Recharge Project, which was submitted by the Lake County Watershed Protection District, and Airborne Electromagnetic Survey of Lake County's groundwater basins, which was a project that was sourced in the Blue Ribbon Committee and supported by your board as well. So Congressman Thompson's staff is continuing to work with representatives from each of the subcommittees that are contemplating awards, and they're effectively advocating for Lake County to secure as much funding for as many projects as they possibly can. Unfortunately, while it's far too early to be certain of the outcome, Congressman Thompson's staff is optimistic that multiple Lake County projects will be funded again this year. So that part is really good news. Unfortunately, one of Congressman Thompson's staff relayed that, as previously stated, aquatic centers and community swim centers are not eligible for funding. And I wanted to also just affirm that there was a meeting hosted between City of Lakeport and City of Clear Lake staff to try to see if there were creative opportunities to still include something on the Lakeport side of the proposal. And it was unfortunately determined that we're too late in the process to do that. So on behalf of the Joint Powers Agency, which encompasses the cities and also the county, this is a project that is consistent with the overall scope of that group to try to develop recreation centers as broadly in the county as possible. And so the Joint Powers Agency was supportive of modifying this proposal as allowable in order to try to get funding for whatever Lake County focused projects we can. And so that's how we came to this place today. So you'll recall our initial submittal was not committee-specific, so unfortunately, they weren't able to find funding for the broader request. But we're really grateful that Congressman staff did continue to work through this with us and provide this secondary opportunity. So while the county and cities had hoped that we could collectively make a more broadly distributed and county-wide impact with this funding request, it's still nonetheless a positive to have a regional recreation center of this quality in Lake County. So the resolution before your board today modifies the request for support from supporting the recreation center in Clear Lake at Burns Valley and a potential community swim aquatic center in Lakeport to just including at this time the recreational center at Burns Valley. And that's again accordance with the guidance of Congressman Thompson's office that that's what's likely or more likely to have an opportunity to be funded this year. So we're just trying to position our request to have the best chances as possible.
Great, thank you, Matthew. Comments from the board? Supervisor Sabatier?
I appreciate that we were able to push all of those projects. I know that some of those projects came late to us as well. We added one on the list the day of that we were reviewing all these things. I don't think it takes away from anything that we were attempting to get. I think this is still working towards the greater good of the JPA. And hopefully this is not a negative for me to say this, but I do think we weren't creative enough. I know I mentioned to you, Mr. Rothstein, that a empty swimming pool makes a great skate park, and so they could have looked a little harder, but it seems that the obvious is there, and so that's why we're not able to move forward with it. Hope we find another way to support the city of Lakeport and our JPA for that to happen, because it is a regional draw, not just a specific location asset. So I think that moving forward is unfortunately what it needs to be. I wish we could do both, but it is what it is at this moment in time.
Supervisor Green?
Yeah, just a technical question. When we did the original CPF, the county was submitting it, right? Now we have a JPA, and if we put in this request as the board and, get awarded it, it'd be awarded to the county or to the new JPA? It's just a technical question, and who should be making the request? Should it be the board? Now that we have a JPA, we're doing an extra agenda item here. My question is, should we be spinning up a special meeting of the new JPA to be doing this request?
Yeah, no, I can definitely appreciate that question. So the action that's before your board today is simply defining this as among Lake County's highest priorities for community project funding. So we did that with the previous items, and as it progresses through the process, it'll be clarified in terms of what specific agency will be providing the funding and what Lake County entity would be most appropriate to draw down the funding at that point in time. But we're really not to that point in the cycle yet. But I am aware that the JPA is already looking to be active and is, as was suggested, already looking into other potential opportunities for funding. And I can definitely make sure that the members of the JPA or the representatives to the JPA are aware of your interest in clarifying that as soon as possible.
Okay. Any public comment? I don't have my Zoom open. Is anyone in Zoom, Johanna?
There are no hands in Zoom
Okay.
at this time.
Would you like me to get on?
Bringing it back to the board for action then. What's the recommended action
The recommended action
it's
is
here.
to adopt the resolution.
as an extra item?
Just offer the resolution, correct?
Vice Chair?
Yes, I'd like to offer the resolution.
Thank you.
Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisor Sabatier,
Aye.
Supervisor Crandall,
Aye.
Supervisor Green,
Aye.
and Supervisor Pyska.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Which item, 7.5 or 5.9? Susan, do you have a preference? 7.5 or 5.9? 7.5. 7.5, okay. Consideration of agreement between the County of Lake and Redwood Community Services, Inc. for supportive employment and supportive education program services for fiscal years 2023 to 2026 for $282. Behavioral health.
Good afternoon, Board. Stephen Carter, Interim Behavioral Health Director. So that is, the main idea here is that Behavioral Health wants to contract with RCS, Redwood Community Services, for early psychosis intervention, supported employment and education programming. Our department did an RFP back in July, with it being due in August of 2022, so it was quite a while ago. There were 2 respondents to the RFP. One was deemed ineligible due to a pre-meeting requirement, so like a bidder's meeting, you had to be there or you can't propose. Only one entity did, and so there is one proposal before us today, which is RCS. It took a long time for the agreement to come to fruition. County Council approved it on March, and it was not on County Council. We had to work out some details with the state. And we're coming before you today to issue that and allow the chair to sign for that agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, well, these funds are all 100% funded through the Early Psychosis Intervention Plus grant, so there are no county funds involved.
Any comments? Supervisor Sabatier?
I believe there's an amendment that needs to be made to this one. Am I correct on that?
Correct. I wasn't sure if I wanted to steer your thunder there.
All your thunder.
Yeah, not such good thunder. So, on the attachment for the agreement, the title says that the services would be through fiscal year 25-26, and the term ends June 30th of 25. Well, that's only 24-25. So the term needs to be changed to June 30th, 2026 to allow it through actual fiscal year 25-26.
That was my only comment.
Anyone else? Anyone in the chambers or in Zoom?
I haven't been given the rights to be.
I don't see anyone in Zoom. Okay, I'll bring it back to the board for action.
Madam Chair, move to approve the agreement between the County of Lake and Redwood Community Services, Inc. for supportive employment and supportive education program services for fiscal year 23 through 26 for $408,282 as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Board.
Okay, now we can go to item 5.9. Approve lease for commercial property located at 858 Lakeport Boulevard, Lakeport, from February 1st, 2023 through February 28th, 2024, and authorize the chair to sign. Do we have Director Portney?
I have notified him.
Don't see him in attendance or panelists at this moment.
Okay.
While we're waiting, I was going to have a question of public services, actually. I know that's JP's item, but the condition of that office, even for another year. So I did have a question of public services. If we're waiting for JP, maybe we can loop Lars in too.
Lars is on the road. You may wish to take up calendars, and if you'd like, I could make a phone call. I'll step out.
Okay, we'll come back to this item, close it, and do calendars. Who is ready to start?
I can make it happen.
Okay.
Trying to figure out what I'm looking at here. So I did want to mention, I'm looking now at my history of what I've done last week. There was an interesting meeting that I was at yesterday. It was something I had not seen before in that never seen a presentation of something like this, and I know that in speaking with CAO Parker, she said she's seen it before, but maybe it's evolved it a little bit. And basically, it was at the Economic Mobility Leadership Network for NACO. The presentation was done by resultsforamerica.org. It was the number 4. And what it does is it provides a kind of a menu of issues that counties and cities around the United States deal with. And within that menu, once you click on a specific type of issue, it offers you another menu of solutions. And within those solutions, there's strong, there's 3 different levels of solution results to let you know that this has been proven, this looks strong, or this has great potential. That way, we're not looking to invent the wheel, which a lot of times we're never really reinventing the wheel, but sometimes we start with our own ideas, which kind of mimic what's already out there. But learning from others, understanding what they've done and what troubles they've had, it was definitely a nice looking tool, a nice database of all kinds of things that you can use and bring in and figure out how to implement it. So again, if you go to results, the number 4america.org, you can go ahead and find that catalog of all potential solutions to different things. I thought that was something that I'd want to bring back to the board and share with you guys. I'll just move forward and ahead. There's a lot of Blue Zones things happening tomorrow. We also have our ARPA committee that's meeting tomorrow early in the morning. Then there's a CSAC homeless webinar that's happening on the 30th that I signed up for. Meeting with a advisory group that was created to provide advisory suggestions for Woodland Community College over at our Lake County campus. Then continued with a meeting over at Lower Lake High School. I believe it's a Blue Zone event. Let me see, what else do I got? Had a good conversation with a group out from Texas. I'll be meeting on Friday the 31st with both our chief climate resiliency officer. I always forget the entire title of that, as well as CAO Parker, to kind of figure out what's the next step. Does it need to come to the board? Does it need to go directly to the committee that needs to be having those conversations with them? I'll be checking out again the warming shelter. Just to report on that, I did go last Friday. Obviously, you heard a lot of stuff about the warming center. We started that relationship on January 24th, I want to say, is when we signed the approval, and it was for 90 days. So there's nothing to say that it is being shut down, but at the same time, we're still waiting for more funds to appear from the state in order to figure out what we do next. So that was the reason for them being here. But overall, it seems that everything is going well. They're well staffed, good vibe inside the area as well, and our paperwork as far as HMIS and other stuff has definitely been a whole lot better too. I will also be spending my Saturday morning over at Lower Lake High School as they do the ribbon cutting for the new track that they put out there. And then the following week, I don't know what I have. I have a feeling it's a Middle Creek Project Committee.
Yep.
Also, I'll be preparing for our PEG board meeting, meeting with our CAO, and coming back here on Tuesday.
Go.
I'll go. Last week, Thursday, went to the Blue Ribbon Committee. They proposed projects. Then there was a list of projects we reviewed, and I think at the next meeting, we'll address the concerns, because there was some surveys that they took. Not surveys, but just they gathered, they had like a doodle poll type of thing where you would say, I support it or I don't support it. And as you know, the Blue Ribbon Committee commonly recommends off of consensus. There's not usually a vote. So just basically trying to get the concerns addressed out, and then I'm pretty sure we'll come back with some more. the next meeting. I know Supervisor Green, at the tail end, I kind of got stuck on something, and you were able to elaborate on, I think it was the hitch resolution. Was that what it was about? Or, I know that you jumped in, and I was like, thank goodness, because they asked us, and I couldn't get on for some reason. But either way, came in and saved the day for me on that. Let's see, this week, I know I did something else, but this week, citizen engagement follow-up on Wednesday morning. I have a meeting with the sheriff in the afternoon. Thursday, Area Agency on Aging, and then the Lake County Recreation Agency meeting. I think that's our first one. The Middle Creek Restoration Project Committee on Monday. Friday's kind of open for me, so I'll probably, touch base with a lot of calls that I have and emails and whatnot. And then back here for the Board of Supervisors on Tuesday.
Yeah, I think I clarified, because again, it is hard to follow the bouncing ball. So I think we were going over the LiDAR project, which was approved last year, but needed funding this year, and there was an ask for that. So I think what I posted was links to the 2 resos we had actually done.
That's what it
was. It's hard, yeah. So Adobe Creek Conjunctive Use Project is popping up in various iterations in these various requests. So just tried the best I could to follow the bouncing ball for the committee. I don't know if I succeeded, so if there's any follow-up questions. Last night, we did have our first meeting of the reconstituted Scotts Valley Community Advisory Council, and I think it went pretty well. So thanks to our new council members, and we actually did have a fair number of other residents interested, and it was nice to see them engage. I think we're going to have a good group moving forward, so thankful for that. Next week, actually a request for this week, and I don't know what your bandwidth is, CAO Parker, but I'm hoping we can do our little agenda meet and greet on Friday. Monday will be my birthday, and I'm hoping to take the day off to do very non-board related things. Next week also, I have Children's Council popping up monthly, but I don't know if they meet monthly. I see Continuum of Care on for the 6th. Is that right?
But we just do.
You're too far.
Yeah, we just do the 1 week until our next meeting.
Okay. Then that's it.
Okay.
Yesterday, obviously had some family matters to deal with last week, but last night had a meeting with Community Development Director on an issue down in Lower Lake, and about 14 residents or property owners down the Lower Lake area in Morgan Valley. We'll be following up with her on that as we move through that process. Today here we have the board meeting. We'll finish up with that. Today, I do have on here agenda review. It's about time for me to start attending those. So hopefully I'll be able to make that tomorrow. And then kind of an open calendar. Besides Friday, we're back on for our Friday meeting with the CAO. And into this weekend, obviously, April Fool's Day on Saturday. We'll see what happens that day. Moving back into Monday, 3rd, and then back here on Tuesday. I am following up, too, with some other projects, working with the Lower Lake Action Committee group with some projects down there that hopefully I'll be bringing back to the board here real soon, working on that. So that'll be a good project in the Lower Lake area for the cemetery. And then I'll also reach out to admin because I do need to do a reappointment and hopefully get it agendized here soon enough for the Middletown Cemetery. Someone had resigned and is looking to be someone else is looking to be reappointed. So that's what I have until next week.
Okay. So last week, we had our tree mortality task force meeting, which is monthly now, and we've got a visit from Mike Jones, our UC Extension forester, who's also an entomologist. And we're finally able to kind of pick his brain, and he gave a presentation on what's going on with the bark beetles and tree mortality. And of course, we all appreciate the winter that we're having this year with the colder weather and lots of rain. It's potentially slowing the beetles, but they go dormant during the winter time. This time last year and the year before, we were seeing active swarming, so we had a longer, drier, warmer period, which meant much more activity. So if anything, this year is just slowing things. He said it's too early to tell how the trajectory will be affected, but the high populations of beetles are still out there, and the trees will have more vigor, and they'll possibly be able to fight off attack, but the populations are still really high. So he said this weather and these conditions will likely help flatten the curve, which is something we've heard before.
Don't.
But we'll have to see when spring happens, trees break dormancy. The last attacks were happening in October and November. They were seeing still a lot of beetle activity. So we will likely see some tree fade happen in the spring, just as we did last winter, February. We saw a lot of trees suddenly just fade out because they had been in dormancy and broke dormancy, and they'd been attacked and killed. So not out of the woods. Another pun for you.
There you go.
Yeah, so it's still going to be a big issue, but we did have some seasonal effects that could have slowed things. Really important to manage the storm damage, because trees that have fresh wounds or damage, particularly the conifers, will be susceptible to attack in those injured areas. And then the branches and debris that have fallen in trees is host material for different species of beetles. And so we want to make sure and do as cleanup as quickly as we can before it's a fire issue, which it will be later on a couple of months from now. It's going to be beetle habitat. So one of the things that he stressed was, although some debris is important for the environment and the ecology, it's important to get that cleaned up. And as far as soil saturation, wind, snow events, and rain, we're still experiencing that, and so could likely still experience windfall trees and other issues from that. So clerk did receive $9.8 million for their grant, which I think was USDA. I'm trying to remember who the grant was for, but $7.4 million of that does go to the Hogback Ridge to support their projects for the next couple of years. So that was a capacity building grant with a lot of projects, so it's pretty awesome that we continue to have this synergy with all these meetings and groups and everyone together. And there are some other grants, two Fire Safe Council grants. I'm sorry, two grants that our local Lake County Fire Safe Council is going after, a COCO AIM grant and PG&E vegetation grant, and then the HMGP grant opportunities that are coming up too. So I know our Chief Climate Resiliency Officer will be keeping us in the loop of everything that we need to do to be preparing for those from the county side. So it was really great to get all of that updates. We hadn't heard from Mike in a couple of months, and we were all wondering what the situation was with the bark beetles. So for my calendar, tomorrow I have agenda review, and then ARPA. I don't know if I'll go to the Blue Zone meetings later in the afternoon. It's possible I will. Thursday, there's a lot of overlapping things. California Wildfire and Forest Health or Forest Resilience Task Force meeting is virtually from 1 to 4, but I've also got my NACO breakout session, and then we're also doing the Lake County Recreation Agency Board meeting, and then we're having dinner with Senator McGuire.
Is that confirmed? I know they suggested, I didn't see any other follow-up.
I didn't see the follow-up either, but I put it on my calendar so I didn't
Me
forget.
too. I got it on there. I was just waiting.
We'll wait and see. We'll wait at the ready for when he
You guys have dinner every week with him.
zooms into town.
Yeah,
I
when it
know.
happens.
Got canceled at the last minute last time. Friday, Cesar Chavez Day. Have my NACO breakout group. Then our staff tree meeting. And then Monday, CAO Parker, and then back on Tuesday, the 4th. Okay,
Madam Chair,
yes.
I forgot to announce something that's really cool, and I think some people will be happy about it. Commander Fansler and one of his other, I think, are they deputies too? Or yeah. They were at one of the meetings, I want to say a while back, and I think they heard a lot of discussion. In all of my town halls, they talked about the Hawk crosswalks, you know, with lights. And so I got this email last week from Commander Fansler. We identified a problem with the vehicle versus pedestrians collisions and fatalities in Lake County, especially along State Route 20, and so we put together a safety proposal for better illuminated high-visibility crosswalks and lobbied Caltrans for over a year to consider our proposal. I was just informed that Caltrans approved $2.5 million to help improve 20 of the poorly marked crosswalks that we identified in our recommendation on State Route 20 in Lake County from Upper Lake to Clear Lake Oaks. I'm proud of my troops for putting this together with the focus on safety for pedestrians and motorists. He thinks this simple improvement, although more expensive than he realized, will have a positive, significant impact in the future. So, want to let us know that's
Great.
good. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
CHP.
Sounds like it's Trooper instead of.
Oh, it is Trooper, you're right.
Trooper. Okay, wonderful. Well, that concludes our open session. We will, doesn't it? Oh, wait, no, we have to go back to 5.9. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to reopen 5.9. Approve the lease for commercial property located at 858 Lakeport Boulevard, Lakeport, from February 1st, 2023 through February 28th, 2024, and authorize the chair to sign. Health Services, and we have Director Portney.
Good morning, board and hello community. Yes, it would be great to get approval for the 858 extension of the lease while we work with other county partners to put in our HVAC system here at the Bevins facility to accommodate the staff members that we hope to place in that section of the building. So we're renting out this leasing space to be able to accommodate the construction, and then we will move forward with all working at Bevins.
Supervisor Sabatier, you pulled this item?
Yeah, there's certain discomforts here, and I know that it's, the more I thought about it, the more I feel like it's more of a micromanaging type of perspective, but at the same time, I know that it's state grants that are paying for this, but it also does place certain burdens on us outside of that state grant. I'm sure that there's some sort of, I don't have the original agreement in front of me. I only have the amendment, but my guess is that we are in charge of the maintenance of the general maintenance of the building. Not sure if everybody is being paid accordingly from that grant or if we're utilizing some of our own building maintenance folks to do some of the work. I know that there's a large amount of vacancy as well in the building that you're in currently. I understand that there is some construction. In looking a little deeper into that, it sounds like that's not necessarily, it's more of a time frame of waiting rather than a time frame of length of construction, since it seems like it was fairly minimal. But I also know that I have gotten some complaints from others, kind of, not complaints, but I guess inquiries as to who's paying for some of these services. I know these are COVID-19 based services in the sense that at our senior center over in the city of Clear Lake, they're there once in a while. I don't know the exact schedule that they have, but I do know that it's very minimal in the number of folks that are being served, and just kind of curious if that is something that can be transitioned to our clinics and our hospitals? Is that something that's being planned to transition? And I guess my last question is, what is the original format of the agreement as far as pulling out of the lease earlier than February 2024? Just because I see that as, in my opinion, not necessarily necessary to make it last that long. So if there's a 30-day notice, then that would be good. And also just kind of curious about the transition of the work being done. When is that becoming like more hospital-related, clinic-related type of stuff?
Well, I know I can speak on the rent agreement. So the rent agreement, there's a 60-day window of notice to terminate the lease. And yeah, I think that it'd be beneficial to approve this so we don't have construction on top of our workers' heads while they renovate the space. Now, to the degree of the disturbance it may cause will vary, but anything usually happening on a roof can cause quite a distraction. So, you know, there's really no way of getting around this. I would encourage to approve the lease agreement. The reason probably it goes to 2024 is because that's when the grant terminates for the funding for that. So I know I spoke with Lars and his team are ambitious to get the work done. And yeah, the sooner we get it done, the sooner we can move people into the building.
Supervisor Green?
Yeah, just a quick question, and I apologize for my own ignorance, but the portion of the building that the office is in, I believe there was another partial roof collapse near it. There was some concern this the whole wing was going to get red tagged, and this may be a question for Lars, but I don't know. So are you aware that there have been additional structural problems with that building? Are you aware whether they've been resolved to the satisfaction that extending this lease, even for another year, wouldn't put our people in harm's way? And I'll just expand my own comment. That shopping center is a long-time bone of contention on any number of levels. So if this is the only place we can lock it in to keep, you know, I just don't want to invest time in this without really having a really good understanding that this building is safe and that looking ahead, remodeling or whatever is appropriate. So I don't want to put you on the spot if you haven't been tracking that issue, but the building as a whole is a mess. There was some additional damage from recent weather events, and I just want some assurance that we're in a good, safe spot.
Yeah, well, it's a strip, and I think the damage you're speaking of is maybe 400 to 500 yards away from the building that we currently occupy.
Okay, so they're on that strip.
Pardon?
They're on that strip building. They're not on the main thing closer to Bevins.
Yeah, they're on the way opposite end of the building.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question. Thank you.
Great.
How many people, employees, occupy this space?
Roughly 5 employees. And again, I just want to preface, sorry, go ahead.
Well, and there's, with the vacancy rate, there isn't room for them at the Bevins building, or?
Yeah, so when we talk about vacancy rate, I just want to clarify for the public and the board. So when you look at our overall staffing structure and vacancies, there's vacancies due to grants not being filled, and then necessary staff to run the department. Those are 2 different things. So if you were to look at them separately, there's no correlation when it comes to vacancy and space. With the space that we do have, it's already allocated to the essential employees that we need. And those positions are being floated. For example, next to my office, there's a position that's being floated in 2 days, right? So to move a staff member and get them settled in that office or any of the 5 other offices that are currently being floated for the position, is not going to solve our current problem, because once they get settled there and if the construction potentially lags, then we're back at square one with having to find a place to put these folks, to place these essential workers. So the space that we do have is already accounted for in the certain departments that are floating for positions. In public health in general, it's difficult to fill positions, as many, and not even public health. I think I can speak across all departments. We're doing our best, but to ensure that the flow of the building stays the same, reallocating people to those offices on a temporary, unforeseen timetable is not going to be beneficial to anyone. So again, I would say, recommendation would be to approve the lease so that we can continue to fill those essential positions and accommodate the staff as we do the construction.
And how long is the remodel of the file room supposed to take?
Yeah, so I had a great conversation with Lars the other day, and him and his team are looking into it with one of my staff members. From the conversation I had with Lars, he indicated that it could be a pretty easy fix, but they kind of got to get in here and look at it. And plus, weather constraints, we might have some of those. So to be determined, but the money's there. The resources are already in the office buildings to accommodate the staff down there. So it just makes a lot of sense right now.
Can I ask why it's not a 6-month lease and why it's a year?
Because with the funding that we have, we have to bill it out to 2024. And with the conversations that we had with the lease agreement folks, I'm pretty sure it'd be flexible for any kind of reimbursement for leaving early. Also, we're TBD and don't have necessarily a timeline on when the construction could be done. God forbid we need other parts ordered from, overseas. That creates a different kind of challenge. So that's a safety net for all.
And you said it's a 50-day termination?
60.
60? So 2
Notice,
months?
yeah.
Okay. Supervisor Green?
Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm misreading it too. So the remodel is for the Bevins building, not this office down in the shopping center. So when I'm looking at the HVAC system upgrade, that's to the Bevins building, not to this shopping center office, correct?
Correct, sir. Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you.
Anything from the public? Do we have anybody in Zoom?
There's been a hand up for quite a while, so I don't think it's related to this, but Natasha Sokolowski has her hand up.
Natasha, if you're here to speak on this item, you can unmute yourself and give your name and have 3 minutes.
Hi, thank you. My name is Natasha Sokolowski. I actually had my hand raised for the prior comments. I will say that I think it's appropriate to request that the chat be enabled for Americans with disabilities. However, moving forward with what was being spoken of prior, there's been hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars distributed to our community, our cannabis community specifically. So I was just wondering why that cannot be allocated to the warming center in Lakeport to provide for some
So
basic-
that, we don't have the warming center on our agenda today. We did have people speaking on that during public input, which is at 9:06 at the beginning of every meeting. And so you're welcome to join us next Tuesday and give public input at that time.
Great, I will do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else in the Zoom room?
No hands.
Okay, we'll bring it back to the board for action.
There's nothing further. Honorable Chair, I move to approve the lease for commercial property located at 858 Lakeport Boulevard in Lakeport from February 1, 2023 through February 28, 2024, and authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion
Thank
passes.
you, Board.
And now we are finished with our open session items. We will move into closed session where we have 4 items. 8.1, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, D1, FERC Project Number 77, Potter Valley Hydroelectric Project. 8.2, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, D1, in RE National Prescription Opioid Litigation, MDL, number 2804, case number 17MD2804. 8.3, Public Employee Evaluation, Information Technology Director. 8.4, Public Employee Evaluation, Health Services Director. Thanks for joining us today, and we will close now for closed session.